Observationally, high above the canopy, a flock of older birds glides effortlessly through a golden sky. They ride the thermal currents with total ease, making flight look like the simplest thing in the world. Down below on the dirt floor, a tiny, fragile bird watches them pass. The instinct to join that formation is entirely overwhelming, driving a singular urge to get off the ground. But physics is unforgiving. When the little bird scales a low branch and launches itself into the air, its undeveloped wings cannot catch the wind. Gravity asserts itself immediately, pulling the bird straight down into a clumsy, painful crash. What follows is a brutal cycle of trial and error. Jump, flap frantically, fall. Jump, flap, fall. The repeated impacts drain every ounce of energy from its small frame, compounding the exhaustion with each impact against the soil. Eventually, the older flock disappears completely over the horizon. The little bird is left alone in the dust, carrying the crushing, heavy conclusion that its body is simply broken. Raw desire, no matter how intense, cannot generate lift on its own. Without the correct physical mechanics, the bird's ambition curdles into despair, cementing a belief that it lacks the biological capacity to ever take flight. Defeated and thirsty, the bird hops away from the trees, eventually arriving at the quiet edge of a dusty village well. As the villagers draw water, a mechanical process repeats. A soft, frayed piece of rope drags heavily over the solid rim of the stone well. This cross-section diagram shows what happens beneath the surface. The soft rope strikes the hard stone, its delicate fibers carving deep, permanent grooves. As erosion deepens, it reveals a mathematical reality. Tiny friction, multiplied by daily repetitions, generates cumulative force overpowering solid stone. The mechanics of flight operate on the exact same principle. Air is dense and the bird's wings are soft, but if those tiny wings strike the heavy air with that same relentless repetition, the cumulative force will inevitably carve out a path upward. The bird's initial crashes were the logical outcome of isolated, unsupported effort. Consistent practice provides the mechanical leverage needed to convert raw ambition into actual lift. Returning to the base of the tree, the bird radically changes its methodology. It stops jumping. Instead, it anchors its feet firmly in the dirt, directing all its energy into the raw, isolated mechanics of flapping. The early days of this grounded grind are grueling. The wing movements are clunky, disjointed, and generate absolutely zero upward momentum. But as the weeks progress, biological adaptation takes over. The stubborn, daily tearing and repairing of muscle tissue forces the bird's nervous system to wire the exact timing of a flap into deep, unconscious memory. To accelerate this adaptation, the bird introduces environmental friction. By practicing head-on into driving rain and harsh crosswinds, the intense atmospheric resistance builds the dense muscle fibers required for flight. Eventually, a critical neurological threshold is crossed. The agonizing, conscious struggle of timing each flap smooths out, locking into a state of perfectly aerodynamic, unconscious competence. The fragile, easily defeated creature from those early falls is gone. In its place is a dense, muscular frame, coiled tightly with potential energy. The bird painstakingly manufactured this capability, day by day, through the unglamorous grind of repetitive practice. The final test demands altitude. The bird scales the tree, stepping out onto the highest, thinnest branch it has ever faced, staring directly into a howling headwind. The ground below looks terrifyingly distant. But remembering the deep grooves carved into the stone well, the bird trusts the invisible architecture of its forged muscle memory to override the biological panic. It steps off the edge. For a split second, gravity takes hold, pulling the bird into a steep freefall. As atmospheric drag, the heavy resistance of the air itself rushes over its feathers. Then the training takes over. The wings snap open, angling precisely to catch the massive updraft, translating months of grounded repetition into explosive vertical flight. Ascending rapidly, the little bird easily catches up to the older flock. With a few powerful rhythmic strokes, it coasts right past them, leaving the larger birds stunned by the sheer velocity of its climb. Relentless repetition carves mastery out of thin air, proving that starting points do not dictate final altitudes. Natural limitations can be entirely rewritten by those who refuse to surrender.